Alright, a few weeks have gone past and it's been slow progress on the boat repair, mostly because of the weather. But on an upside, that has given me an opportunity to assess each bit that I'm doing and to see if there was a better way. I think where I left off, I was decided that I was only going to do a one-side repair, that I couldn't actually get good access to the inside because there was timber in the way. I've managed to remove that with a combination of the reciprocating saw, which I think I did show, and then I had to go with a chisel, and I actually drilled out sections as well, and it actually just broke away pretty easily. Then I was able to use a cold chisel to knock bits out and a wood chisel to chisel more bits out. It's actually come up really good. That's what I've chiseled out, and that was the floor support. So that's what's left of it. This section here went right the way through and supported the floor there. I'm not going to need it there because I am going to have the hatch. This section was of fiberglass was in that hole, but as soon as I removed that timber that was in there, that just fell away. So the fact that that fell away is a really good thing that I took out that timber, because that was just a weak place, and I would have, you know, just been fiberglassing over weak material, which is no good. So what I've decided I'm going to do is I'm going to fiberglass around that timber and encase that, and then come back over there to strengthen that whole area. So I've just lightly sanded all around that area there so that I can get a good adhesion to that existing glass. So what started out as a pretty small hole is now a pretty big hole, but that was all weakened material, so it really was best to completely take it all out. There's a bit of a divot there where I've gone a little bit too hard, so I think I'm going to put in a little bit of extra fiberglass in there, just a small bit, just to build that up a little bit as I go. You can see what's left of an old repair, so that was okay. I might have to build it up a little bit more on that side as a result of leaving some of that glass in there. I felt like that was going to create more work for myself than I needed to take that out, and it's plenty solid, so the goats want some attention, but I ain't got time for that. So I've been using these little flapper discs. I think they're about an 80 grit sandpaper, got a couple of different sizes there. Just on an old Bosch drill, not cordless, just power drill. It's been doing a really good job, and I got this extension bit so that I could get up in there. That's where I was originally going to use the power file that Ryobi make, but it wasn't going to give me the reach that I needed, so it wasn't worth spending 150 bucks on something that was only going to do half the job. So there you go. I think that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with how that prep work's come up, and now I'm using bits of paper, scrap paper, to just get an idea of how big the bits of fiberglass are that I want to get in there. So I'll show you how I'm doing that. These pieces don't need to be perfect. They just need to cover the area and get a little bigger each piece. And the way that'll work, the smallest piece goes in first. Then the next biggest piece, and the next biggest piece. Then finally the biggest piece goes on last. And the reason why we put on the smallest piece first and the biggest piece last, goes smallest to biggest, is because then we have a connection with each piece of fiberglass as it gets bigger to the whole material around it. If we went with the biggest piece, then we've only effectively got one piece that's actually making connection with the hull, and everything else is just sitting on top of that. So the strength comes from having a connection with each piece of fiberglass. That's something I learned from Boatworks Today, so thank you, Andy. Been watching quite a few Boatworks Today videos, and they are pretty handy. So if you're doing a job like this too, make sure you check out Boatworks Today channel. Yeah, I actually got myself some woven as well. And I was having an hour on whether I was going to use it. I think I'm going to give it a crack. I'll do a couple of layers of chopped strand, and then I'll do a layer of the woven, and then I'll go back to the chopped strand to finish off. I just want to take my biggest piece and I want to just put it in there and see how much space it takes up, and whether I'm going to need to do some extra filling in afterwards. I need to get that to come around, and that is going to be part of my issue, and I think I'm going to have to put an ice cream container lid in there, because I believe that polyester resin doesn't stick to plastic. I'm hoping that's correct, and that'll just give me a surface to work to. I'm thinking if I go like so, theoretically, then that should all just bend down, and I'll have to do that on each piece. I'm going to wipe everything down with acetone to clean and prime the surfaces, and then I'll wet the area with the resin. As I understand it, the acetone does two things. It cleans, but it also prepares the surface. So it softens the fiberglass a little bit, I think. I'm going to mix it at 2%. I'm a bit under 18 degrees at the moment. I'm doing 50 mils, so I need 1 mil of neck. First time fiberglassing. I'm going to wet this up first and let it go tacky. While that's going tacky, I'm going to wet up the surface underneath. That's not really working as I had intended. Now I'll wait for that to set up, and then I'm going to put another 2 or 3 layers on the outside there, but I really just wanted that to sort of semi-set up and make sure that I've mixing the resin correctly. And I also want to be able to remove that ice cream lid at some point. I did end up doing more layers than what I was expecting in that first run, partly because I had more resin and partly because laying out the resin on the fiberglass on that black bit of plastic that I've got, the fiberglass actually almost ended up falling apart and sticking to the black plastic, so I decided I was just going to have to put the fiberglass up in there and then apply the resin while it was in place, and that worked all right too. I was worried that it would sort of want to come away, but yeah, sticky enough to actually stay there, so I ended up putting in 3 layers of glass. So we'll come back in a little bit and we'll see how that works. Fingers crossed, eh? Fingers crossed. First time fiberglassing. The first layers of fiberglass set up well, so it's time to lay up the remaining fiberglass.
Son of a bitch.
Filming the inside was difficult because I was working in such a confined space and I didn't want to cover the camera in resin. The important thing to note is that I thoroughly wet up the timber several times so the glass properly bonded to it. From there, it was just a matter of starting with the smallest piece, which only just covered the hole, and working up through the sizes until the glass wrapped around the timber running along the keel box, and well out onto the hull in front of the hole to strengthen the entire area. I ended up with at least 10 layers of glass, half inside, half outside, with one layer of woven each side, and the remaining layers being chopped strand. Because I used a laminating resin which has no wax, a layer of flow coat was applied to exclude the air and cure the resin. Once cured, it was back to sanding to get the glass smooth and ready for the final gel coat.
I foolishly thought that one coat would be enough, but as soon as I started sanding for a smooth finish, it was clear I was wrong.
I reckon I just had a little bit of a high point there, so just clean that up. And on the seam on the other side there too, and I'm happy with how that's looking. I just didn't quite get enough coverage with the flow coat with one coat, so now we'll go back and do it again and put another 2 coats on, and then I'll have plenty of coverage on there, I think.
For the additional 2 coats, the first was unwaxed gel coat, meaning there was no need to sand between coats, and the final was flow coat, which is waxed to ensure a proper cure.
Done with sanding, I'm going to call that job done. I'm not entirely happy with the job that I've done on gelcoat. I think it's okay, but painting and sanding has never been one of my strong points. And at some point, I decided I've just got to say that's good enough. I could just maybe put on another coat and keep sanding, but I've already spent probably the better part of 4 hours sanding that up, and that's enough time for me. It looks alright. It's certainly going to do the job, so this is what we've got.
As you can see, there are a few spots where I've sanded through the gel coat, and as much as I want to call it job done, it's just not. So I ended up doing one last coat, and now after the first sail and with the gel coat dirty from the trailer rollers, I can say that I'm happy with the final result. Coming up in part 3, the keel winch goes back in with the new Dyneema rope. The inspection port gets fitted, and I find another thing that needs repairs.
And that is an almighty crack there. That's bad.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to leave a comment, and if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next video.